The cold darkness of space held no mercy for the weak. Commander Thexavel knew this truth better than most. His 3 ships moved like shadows through the void, their black hulls drinking in starlight and giving nothing back. The Velkari Empire had sent him to the edge of known space to find new worlds to conquer. This was what he did best. Thexavel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars grow brighter as they approached their target. His pale blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of the control panels. The other Velkari moved quietly around him, checking weapons and scanning equipment. They had done this dance many times before. "Commander," said his second officer, Kethvar, "we are approaching the Sol system. Our information says the humans have 12 ships in the area." Thexavel smiled, showing sharp white teeth. "Only 12? The intelligence report said they were primitive. This will be easy work." Far ahead, at the edge of the Sol system, Captain Daeho Kim sat in his command chair aboard the Yuan Incheon. The ship was not large, but it was the pride of the human fleet. Daeho had spent 5 years commanding deep space patrols, watching for threats that might come from the dark between the stars. "Captain," called Lieutenant Bo-Ra Park from her station, "I'm getting strange readings on the long-range sensors. Something is out there, but I can't get a clear picture." Daeho leaned forward. He was a calm man with gray streaks in his black hair. Years of space duty had taught him to trust his officers and their equipment. "What kind of readings, Bo-Ra?" "Energy signatures, sir. Very faint, but there's definitely something artificial out there. Maybe 3 objects moving toward us. Distance? About 2 million kilometers in closing. If they keep this speed, they'll be here in 6 hours." Daeho thought for a moment. Humanity had been watching the stars for signs of alien life for decades. They had always known this day might come. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we may have visitors." The Velkari scouts continued their approach. Their cloaking technology was the best in the galaxy. No primitive species had ever detected them before they wanted to be found. Thexavel studied the reports about humanity with growing confidence. "They use chemical rockets and simple fusion drives," he told his crew. "Their weapons are basic projectiles and crude energy beams. They have barely left their homeworld. This should take less than a day." Kethvar nodded. "Shall we begin the standard intimidation protocol, Commander?" "Not yet. Let us watch them first. I want to see how they react when they realize they are being hunted." The Velkari had conquered 47 star systems using the same methods. First, they would scout a new species and study their weaknesses. Then they would reveal themselves and demand surrender. Most species gave up without a fight when they saw Velkari technology. Those who resisted were destroyed quickly and completely. Aboard the Incheon, Lieutenant Bo-Ra Park continued to track the mysterious contacts. The readings were getting stronger, but something was wrong. The objects seemed to be using some kind of stealth system that bent light and energy around them. "Captain, I'm getting better data now," she reported. "Definitely 3 ships, much larger than ours. Their technology is very advanced. I've never seen anything like it." Captain Daeho Kim felt his stomach tighten. He had always known that humanity might not be alone in the universe, but he had hoped their first contact would be peaceful. These ships were clearly trying to hide from detection. That did not suggest friendly intentions. "Get me a channel to the fleet," he ordered. Within minutes, 11 other human ships began moving into position around the Incheon. They were not large or impressive compared to what was coming toward them. The biggest was only 300 meters long. Their weapons were simple railguns and laser cannons. Their armor was basic steel and ceramic composites. But Captain Daeho Kim had something the Velkari did not expect. He had spent years preparing for this moment. The human fleet might look weak, but appearances could lie. Commander Thexavel watched the human ships gather together. They moved slowly and clumsily compared to Velkari vessels. Their formation was loose and unprofessional. He laughed quietly to himself. "Look at them," he said to Kethvar. "They bunch up like frightened animals. They have no idea how to fight in space. Should we attack now, Commander?" "No, let them see us first. I want them to understand how hopeless their situation is. Fear makes surrender easier." The Velkari commander did not know that every human ship was recording everything. Lieutenant Bo-Ra Park and her counterparts on the other vessels were studying the alien technology with great interest. Captain Daeho Kim was already forming plans based on what they were learning. "Their cloaking system has a weakness," Bo-Ra reported quietly. "It creates a small distortion in local gravity fields. If we know what to look for, we can track them even when they're invisible." "Good work," Daeho replied. "What about their weapons?" I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their forward sections. Whatever they have, it's much more powerful than anything we carry. Captain Daeho Kim nodded slowly. He had expected this. Humanity had always known they would be outgunned in their first encounter with alien technology. But humans had learned long ago that the strongest army did not always win. Sometimes the smartest one did. All ships, he broadcast on the fleet channel. Unknown contacts approaching. Prepare for possible hostile action. Remember your training. We may be outnumbered and outgunned, but we are not beaten. The human ship spread out into a defensive formation. It looked random to Velkari eyes, but every position had been carefully chosen. Captain Daeho Kim had spent years studying space warfare, learning from every human conflict in history. He knew that courage and cleverness could sometimes overcome superior firepower. Commander Thexvel gave his final orders. In 1 hour, they would decloak and demand surrender. If the humans refused, they would demonstrate Velkari power with a few well-placed shots. Then the real invasion fleet would come to claim this new system for the Empire. The stage was set for a battle that would change the galaxy forever. Neither side knew it yet, but this meeting between two species would decide the fate of countless worlds. The humans waited with quiet determination. The Velkari approached with supreme confidence. In the cold darkness of space, destiny held its breath. The space around the human fleet suddenly filled with light as 3 massive alien ships appeared from nowhere. Captain Daeho Kim felt his breath catch in his throat. The Velkari vessels were enormous, each one 3 times longer than his largest ship. Their dark hulls gleamed with strange energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "God," whispered Lieutenant Bo-Ra Park. "They're beautiful and terrifying at the same time, Commander." Thexvel stood proudly on his bridge as his ships revealed themselves. This was always his favorite moment. He could imagine the fear spreading through the primitive human vessels as they realized how outmatched they were. The element of surprise and overwhelming display of power usually ended conflicts before they could begin. "Open a channel to the human ships," he ordered. "Let us give them the standard greeting." The communication array on the Velkari flagship began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple and direct, translated into several human languages by their computer systems. The translation was rough and mechanical, but the meaning was clear enough. "Attention, primitive species. You are now subjects of the Velkari Empire. Lower your defensive systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction. You have 10 minutes to comply." Captain Daeho Kim listened to the alien voice with growing anger. The words were spoken without emotion, like someone reading a grocery list. These beings had come to his star system and immediately demanded surrender. They treated humanity like animals to be captured and caged. "Lieutenant Lee," he called to his communications officer, "open a channel to the alien ships." Lieutenant Sujin Lee was young but skilled at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls as she established a connection with the Velkari fleet. "Channel open, Captain." Daeho Kim took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first words to an alien species. He wanted to choose them carefully. "Alien vessels, this is Captain Daeho Kim of the United Earth Navy ship Incheon. We welcome you to our solar system. However, we are a free people and will not surrender our independence to anyone. If you come in peace, we are willing to talk. If you come as conquerors, you will find us ready to defend ourselves." Commander Thexvel listened to the human response with amusement. The primitive captain actually sounded defiant. This happened sometimes with new species. A few always thought they could resist the inevitable. It was better to crush such ideas quickly. "Kethvar, prepare the forward plasma cannons. Fire a warning shot across the bow of their lead ship. Make it close enough to scare them, but not close enough to cause damage. We want them alive for questioning." Lieutenant Sujin Lee was working frantically at her station. She had been monitoring alien communication since they appeared, and what she found made her blood run cold. The translation software had given her access to their internal messages. "Captain," she said urgently, "I'm intercepting their communications. They're not here to talk. They've already decided to conquer us. They call it pacification and integration. From what I can understand, they plan to make us slaves." Captain Daeho Kim felt his last hope for peaceful contact die. He had always known this moment might come, but he had hoped alien visitors would be curious scientists or friendly explorers. Instead, humanity had encountered its first galactic bullies. "All ships, this is Incheon," he broadcast on the fleet channel. "Hostile intentions confirmed. Battle stations. Remember, we trained for this day. The human ships began to spread out into their combat formation. It looked chaotic to Velkari observers, but every movement had been practiced hundreds of times. Each captain knew exactly where to position their vessel. Engineer Han Wool Choi was running final checks on the engine systems. He was a quiet man who preferred machines to people, but he was one of the best engineers in the human fleet. His sensors were telling him things about the alien ships that worried him greatly. "Captain," he reported, "their ships are incredibly advanced. Their main weapons appear to be plasma-based, probably capable of melting through our armor in seconds. Their shields are some kind of energy field that could stop anything we can throw at them. Honestly, sir, we shouldn't be able to hurt them at all." "Shouldn't be able to, Han Wool? Or can't?" The engineer smiled slightly. "Shouldn't be able to, Captain. We have a few surprises they don't know about." Commander Thexavel was growing impatient. The humans were moving around but showed no signs of surrendering. Their ships were spreading out instead of clustering together in defeat. This was taking longer than usual. "Fire the warning shot," he ordered. A brilliant beam of superheated plasma lanced out from the Velkari flagship. It passed just 50 meters in front of the Inchin, close enough that the bridge crew could see it through the viewports. The energy beam was so powerful it left glowing particles in space that took several seconds to fade. "That was their warning shot?" asked Lieutenant Bora Park. "If they had aimed a little to the left, we'd be vapor right now." Captain Dae-ho Kim studied the fading energy trail. The alien weapons were indeed far more powerful than anything humanity possessed. But power was not everything in warfare. Sometimes intelligence mattered more than strength. The Velkari commander waited for the humans to panic and surrender. Instead, he watched in growing confusion as they continued their strange movements. Some ships moved forward while others fell back. Their formation made no sense to his military-trained mind. "Commander," reported Kethavar, "the humans are not responding to our demonstration. They appear to be preparing for battle." "Impossible. They must realize they cannot win against our superior technology." "Should we fire again, Commander?" Thexvel considered his options. The Empire preferred to conquer intact systems when possible, but sometimes examples had to be made. Perhaps destroying one human ship would convince the others to surrender. Target their lead vessel. Prepare to fire a full-power shot. If they will not surrender, we will show them the price of defiance. Lieutenant Sujin Lee's equipment picked up the targeting systems locking onto the Inchin. "Captain, they're painting us with their weapons." "I think they're done with warnings." Captain Dae-ho Kim nodded calmly. This was the moment everything depended on. Years of preparation and secret research had led to this point. Either humanity's hidden technologies would work, or they would all die in the next few minutes. "All ships execute Plan Alpha. Repeat, execute Plan Alpha." The human fleet suddenly stopped its seemingly random movement. Every ship turned to face the alien vessels at exactly the same moment. Their weapons powered up with unusual energy signatures that made the Velkari sensors flicker and spark. "What are they doing?" demanded Commander Thexvel. "Those readings don't make sense." Engineer Han Wool Choi watched his instruments with satisfaction. The quantum field generators were working perfectly. The gravitational distortion cannons were charging as designed. Most importantly, the crystalline armor plating was resonating at exactly the right frequency. "Alien vessel," came Captain Kim's voice over the radio. "This is your final warning. Leave our system now or face the consequences. We do not want to fight, but we will defend ourselves." Commander Thexvel laughed harshly. "Fire all weapons. Destroy them." 3 massive plasma beams erupted from the Velkari ships, each one carrying enough energy to crack a small moon. They struck the human fleet with devastating force, creating explosions that lit up space like new stars. When the light faded, Thexavel expected to see debris and wreckage. Instead, he saw 12 human ships still hanging in space, their hulls glowing but intact. Impossible readings flooded his sensors. "How?" he whispered. Captain Dae-ho Kim's voice came across the communication channel, calm and steady. "Your turn is over. Now it's ours." The real battle was about to begin. Commander Thexvel stared at his sensor displays in complete shock. His weapons had fired at full power. The plasma beams should have turned the human ships into glowing gas clouds. Instead, the primitive vessels were still there, their hulls barely damaged. "Run full diagnostics on all weapon systems," he ordered frantically. "Something must be wrong with our cannons." Kethvar worked quickly at his station. All systems show normal function, Commander. Our weapons fired correctly. The humans somehow absorbed the impact. Impossible! No species has ever survived a direct hit from Velkari plasma cannons. On the bridge of the UN Busan, Commander Hyun-woo Nam smiled grimly as he watched the alien ship scramble to understand what had happened. His vessel had taken a direct hit from one of their massive weapons, but the quantum crystalline armor had held perfectly. "Damage report," he called to his crew. "Hull temperature elevated but stable," replied his engineer. The crystal matrix absorbed most of the energy and spread it across the entire ship. "We lost some paint and a few sensor arrays, but nothing critical." Commander Nam nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had spent 20 years developing the armor after theoretical physicists discovered how to grow crystals that could bend the laws of physics. The Velkari had superior firepower, but they had never encountered defensive technology like this. "All ships, this is Busan," he broadcast. "Phase 1 complete. Their weapons are powerful but useless against our defenses. Moving to Phase 2. Captain Dae-ho Kim watched the confusion spreading through the alien fleet. Their ships were turning frantically, trying different angles of attack. They fired again and again, their powerful beams striking human vessels without effect. It was time to show them that humanity had learned to do more than just defend. "Captain Song," he called on the fleet channel, "you may begin your demonstration." Captain Yoonji Song commanded the UN Daegu, the newest ship in the human fleet. Her vessel looked ordinary from the outside, but hidden in its hull were weapons that had never been tested in real combat. She had volunteered to be the first to use them against an enemy. "Gravitational field generators online," reported her weapons officer. "Target locked on the nearest alien ship." "Fire," Captain Song ordered quietly. The Daegu's main weapon activated without any visible beam or projectile. Instead, it created a focused distortion in space itself. Gravity suddenly became a weapon, reaching out across thousands of kilometers to grab the Velkari scout ship. Commander Thexavel felt his ship lurch violently to one side. Alarms began screaming throughout the bridge as the hull started to groan and buckle. Something was crushing his vessel from the outside, but there was nothing there. "Report," he shouted over the noise. "Unknown force affecting ship structure," called Kethvar. "Hull stress approaching critical levels. It's like something invisible is squeezing us." The gravitational weapon tightened its grip. Metal screamed as the Velkari ship began to fold in on itself like a piece of paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. Emergency systems failed one by one as the distortion field twisted the vessel into an impossible shape. "Emergency jump," ordered Thexavel. "Get us out of here!" But it was too late. The gravitational field had warped space around the ship so severely that their faster-than-light drive could not function. The Velkari vessel continued to compress until its hull finally ruptured. The ship exploded in a brief, brilliant flash that left nothing but scattered debris. The two remaining alien ships stopped firing at the humans and began moving away from the battle zone. Commander Thexavel, now aboard the second scout ship, tried to process what he had just witnessed. "They destroyed Vektar's ship without firing a single projectile," he said in amazement. "How is this possible?" His new second officer was equally confused. "Our sensors detected no energy beam, no missile launch, nothing. The ship just began to collapse as if space itself was attacking it." Captain Yoonji Song was already selecting her next target. The gravitational field generator was charging for another shot. The aliens had made a mistake by staying close together. She could destroy the second ship before they had time to escape. But Captain Dae-ho Kim had other plans. "All ships surround the remaining vessels. Do not let them escape, but do not destroy them yet. We need to learn more about where they came from." The human fleet began moving in a coordinated pattern that seemed impossible to the watching Velkari. The ships appeared to vanish from one position and instantly reappear in another, flickering across space like ghosts. "What kind of drive system is that?" demanded Thexavel. Navigation Officer Woo Jin Park aboard the Incheon was pleased with how well the microjump system was working. Humanity had developed the technology by studying quantum mechanics in ways that other species had never considered. Instead of making long, faster-than-light journeys, human ships could make thousands of tiny jumps with perfect precision. "Alien vessels surrounded, Captain," he reported. "They're trapped inside our formation." The remaining Velkari ships found themselves in an impossible situation. 12 human vessels had materialized around them in a perfect sphere, each one close enough to fire at point-blank range. Every time they tried to move toward an opening, a human ship would teleport into their path. Commander Thexvel realized that his scouting mission had become a disaster. He had lost one ship already and would probably lose the others unless he could find a way to escape. The humans had technology that should not exist, weapons that ignored the laws of physics as the Velkari understood them. "Try to contact the fleet," he ordered desperately. "Tell them the humans are not what we expected. We need reinforcements." But his communications officer was shaking his head. "I cannot establish a connection, Commander. Something is blocking our transmissions." Cyber warfare specialist Ji-hoon Yoon was working at his station aboard the UN Seoul, a ship specifically designed for electronic warfare. His equipment was jamming all alien communications while simultaneously trying to break their encryption codes. "Captain," he reported to his commander, "I'm intercepting fragments of their messages. Their computer systems use quantum encryption, but our AI is learning their patterns. Give me another few minutes and I should be able to decode everything they send." The trap was complete. The Velkari had come to scout and conquer what they thought was a primitive species. Instead, they had encountered a civilization that had developed along completely different technological paths. Humanity had learned to manipulate gravity, bend space, and create materials that absorbed energy instead of being destroyed by it. Commander Thexvel made a desperate decision. If he could not escape, at least he could warn the Empire about what they would face. He ordered his weapons officer to overload their plasma cannons and fire everything they had at the nearest human ship. The massive energy blast struck the UN Gwangju at point-blank range. The explosion was so powerful it could be seen from other star systems. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, its crystalline armor glowing white-hot but unbroken. Captain Seung-ho Chang of the Gwangju checked his damage reports calmly. "Minor hull heating. All systems operational. Should we return fire?" "Negative," came Captain Kim's voice over the radio. "They're beaten and they know it. Let's see if they're ready to talk now." The silence that followed was heavy with defeat. The Velkari had thrown everything they had at the humans and accomplished nothing. Their advanced weapons were useless, their ships were trapped, and their enemies possessed impossible technologies. Commander Thexvel finally understood that his species was no longer the apex predator of the galaxy. Something new had emerged from the outer rim, something that would change the balance of power among the stars forever. For the first time in Velkari history, they were the ones who were outmatched. Commander Thexvel's hands shook as he stared at the human ship surrounding his remaining vessels. His proud scouting fleet had been reduced to 2 damaged ships trapped in an impossible situation. The humans had weapons that ignored shields and armor that absorbed planet-cracking energy beams like they were flashlight batteries. "Commander," his communications officer called out nervously, "I'm detecting a weak signal pathway through their jamming. I might be able to send a message to command if we boost our transmitter power." "Do it," Thexvel ordered. "The Empire must know what they're facing here." The alien ship began broadcasting on emergency frequencies, sending a desperate message toward Velkari space. The transmission was heavily encoded and compressed, designed to slip through enemy interference. It carried details about human weapons, their impossible defensive technology, and a warning that this species was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Cyber warfare specialist Ji-hoon Yoon was waiting for exactly this kind of transmission. His equipment aboard the UN Seoul had been monitoring all Velkari communications since the battle began. The moment their emergency broadcast started, his computers began working to intercept and decode it. "Got it," he said with satisfaction. "They're trying to warn their friends about us." His fingers danced across his control panels as advanced AI systems attacked the alien encryption. Humanity had developed artificial intelligence along very different lines than other species. Instead of creating obedient servants, humans had built digital partners that could think creatively and adapt to new situations. Within minutes, the AI had cracked the Velkari codes and begun tracing the signal back to its destination. What it found was far more valuable than anyone had expected. "Captain Minho," Ji-hoon called to his commander, "you need to see this. We're not just reading their message. We're following it through their entire communication network." Captain Minho Kim studied the data flowing across his screens. The alien communication system was like a highway leading directly into the heart of their empire. Every relay station, every military outpost, every fleet position was becoming visible to human intelligence. Are you telling me we can see their entire military setup? Yes, sir. And it's bigger than we thought. They have over 300 warships stationed at something called Outpost Kethmore, about 15 light-years from here. That's probably where they were planning to launch their invasion from. The information was immediately shared with the rest of the human fleet. Captain Dae-ho Kim realized they had been given an incredible opportunity. Not only had they defeated the alien scouts, but they now had a complete picture of their enemy's forces and positions. All ships, he broadcast, prepare for Phase 3 operations. We're going hunting. The UEN Sol was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel, designed specifically for reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. Unlike the other ships in the fleet, it was built for invisibility rather than combat. Captain Min-ho Kim had volunteered for the most dangerous part of their plan. Take us close to the damaged alien ship, he ordered. I want to scan every system they have. The Sol moved silently through space using its adaptive camouflage technology. The ship's hull could change color and texture to match its surroundings, making it nearly impossible to detect even at close range. Human scientists had studied how chameleons and octopi changed their appearance, then applied those same principles to spacecraft design. Medical officer So Young Choi was analyzing the alien technology as fast as the Sol's scanners could gather data. What she discovered made her deeply disturbed. Captain, she reported, these beings have cybernetic implants throughout their brains. The devices appear to suppress individual thought and creativity. They're basically organic robots following programmed instructions. Is that why their technology seems so advanced but limited? Asked Captain Kim. Exactly. They can build powerful weapons and ships, but only by following designs that were created long ago. They can't innovate or adapt to new situations. When we showed them something they'd never seen before, they had no idea how to respond. This explained everything about the alien behavior. The Valkyrie had conquered many worlds using the same tactics over and over again. They had never needed to change their methods because no one had ever successfully resisted them before. But humanity was different. Human scientists and engineers were constantly asking what if, and why not. They experimented with crazy ideas and turned theoretical concepts into practical weapons. Their chaotic, individualistic approach to research had given them technologies that a rigid empire could never develop. Commander, Thexville had no idea that human ships were studying his vessels and reading his communications. He was focused on trying to escape the trap so he could warn the Empire about this dangerous new species. Divert all power to the engines, he ordered. Maybe we can break through their formation and jump to hyperspace. The damaged Valkyrie ship accelerated toward what appeared to be a gap in the human formation. But the moment it moved, 3 human vessels teleported directly into its path. The aliens found themselves facing the business end of gravitational field generators at point-blank range. Stand down or be destroyed, came the calm voice of a human captain. Thexville reluctantly ordered his ship to stop. He was beginning to understand that the humans had been playing with him from the beginning. They could have destroyed both his remaining ships at any time, but they were keeping him alive for reasons he could not understand. Intelligence analyst Yuna Kang was working furiously aboard the command ship, processing all the information they had gathered about the alien empire. The data flowing in from their captured communications was painting a picture of a vast military organization that had grown lazy from centuries of easy victories. Captain Kim, she reported, I've found something interesting. The aliens have a major weakness in their command structure. All their ships rely on orders from a central command post. If we can disrupt their communications or capture their command ship, their entire fleet becomes helpless. Captain Dae-ho Kim studied the tactical analysis with growing excitement. Humanity had always known they would be outnumbered in any space war. But if they could turn the enemy's rigid discipline against them, numbers might not matter. How long until we can move on their main base? Our stealth ships are already in position, Yuna replied. We can strike whenever you give the order. The plan was audacious beyond belief. Instead of waiting for the aliens to bring their invasion fleet to human space, the 12 ships of the human patrol would attack the enemy's main base directly. They would use their technological advantages to strike first and strike hard. Commander Thexville finally managed to send his warning message to the Empire, not knowing that humans had already read it and used it to plan their attack. His transmission reached Fleet Admiral Zixthak at Outpost Kethmore, carrying news of the disaster in human space. The Admiral read the report with growing disbelief. No primitive species could possibly defeat Velkari technology. Thexavel must have made some terrible mistake or shown cowardice in the face of the enemy. The only solution was to send overwhelming force to crush these upstart humans once and for all. "Prepare 50 ships for immediate departure," he ordered. "We will teach these humans what happens when they resist the Empire." Admiral Zixthak had no way of knowing that his every communication was being monitored by human intelligence. The moment he gave the order to attack Earth, Captain Daeho Kim received the information and finalized his own battle plans. "All ships," Kim broadcast to his small fleet. "The enemy is coming with 50 warships. We're going to meet them halfway and show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The 12 human ships began moving toward their destiny. They were outnumbered more than 4 to 1, but they carried with them technologies that could reshape the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and the real war was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Zixthak stood in the command center of Outpost Kethmore, surrounded by holographic displays showing his massive fleet. 300 warships filled the space around the military station, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon arrays that could destroy entire planets. He had built this force over decades of conquest, and no enemy had ever survived an encounter with it. 50 ships should be more than enough to deal with these primitive humans, he told his staff officers. Commander Thexvel must have panicked when he encountered their crude weapons. There is no species in the galaxy that can match Velkari military technology. The Admiral's confidence was absolute. He had received scattered reports about human defensive capabilities, but he dismissed them as impossible exaggerations. His scientists had assured him that no primitive civilization could develop anything more advanced than basic energy shields and kinetic weapons. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the punitive fleet is ready to depart. Shall I give the order?" "Launch immediately," Zixthak commanded. "I want those human worlds burning within the week." What the Admiral did not know was that intelligence analyst Yuna Kang had been inside his computer systems for hours, reading every message and studying every tactical plan. The human fleet had positioned itself perfectly based on the information she had gathered from intercepted communications. "Captain Kim," she reported from her station aboard the Incheon, "the alien fleet is moving exactly as we predicted. 50 ships in a standard attack formation, following the same route their scouts used. They'll reach the intercept point in 3 hours. Captain Daeho Kim nodded calmly. His small fleet of 12 ships was hidden in the dark space between star systems, waiting for their enemies to arrive. The humans had used their micro-jump technology to position themselves along the alien flight path, invisible to enemy sensors. Tactical Coordinator Jun Seo Park had spent days studying Velkari military doctrine based on their captured communications. What he found was a rigid system that had not changed in centuries. The aliens always attacked in the same formations, used the same strategies, and expected the same responses from their enemies. "They're predictable," he explained to the other captains during their final briefing. "They'll come straight at us in a wall formation, fire everything they have, then expect us to either surrender or die. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt and think creatively. The human ship spread out into a three-dimensional formation that would have confused any traditional military commander. Some vessels positioned themselves above the alien flight path, others below and a few directly ahead. To alien eyes, it would look like random positioning, but every ship was exactly where it needed to be. Fleet Admiral Zixthak's ships dropped out of hyperspace right into the middle of the human trap. The Admiral stared in shock at his sensor displays as 12 primitive vessels materialized around his 50-ship fleet from seemingly impossible angles. "How did they know we were coming?" he demanded. His tactical officer was equally confused. "Unknown, Admiral. They appear to have been waiting for us. Our stealth approach should have been undetectable." "It doesn't matter," Zixthak said, recovering his composure. 50 ships against 12. Even if they have some clever new weapons, they're still hopelessly outnumbered. All ships attack formation. Destroy them. The Velkari fleet began moving into their traditional battle line, but the humans were already one step ahead. Captain Yoonji Song of the UN Daegu had selected her targets carefully based on Jun Seo Park's analysis of alien command structures. "Gravitational field generators locked on their flagship," she reported. "Ready to fire." "Do it," ordered Captain Kim. The invisible weapon reached out across space and began crushing Admiral Zixthak's command ship. The massive vessel, larger than any human warship, started folding in on itself as gravity became a focused weapon. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the alien fleet as their command center was destroyed in seconds. Without their admiral's leadership, the Velkari ships began following their programmed responses. But their rigid doctrine had no answer for enemies that attacked from 6 directions at once using weapons that bypassed all known defenses. Commander Hyunwoo Nam of the UN Busan led the second wave of attacks. His ship and 5 others appeared directly among the alien formation, using their micro-jump drives. At point-blank range, the human gravitational weapons were devastatingly effective. Velkari ships began collapsing one after another as space itself turned against them. Their powerful plasma cannons fired desperately at the human vessels, but the quantum crystalline armor absorbed the energy harmlessly. Centuries of military superiority crumbled in minutes. Captain Min-ho Kim commanded the UN Seoul as it moved silently through the battle zone, its adaptive camouflage making it invisible to alien sensors. His mission was not to destroy enemy ships but to capture one intact for study. "Target acquired," reported his weapons officer. "Isolated enemy cruiser, minimal damage. Disable their engines but leave life support intact," Min-ho ordered. "We want prisoners, not corpses." A precisely focused gravitational pulse crippled the alien ship's drive systems, without destroying the vessel. The Seoul moved alongside and extended boarding tubes, preparing to capture their first live alien prisoners. The battle was over in less than an hour. Of the 50 Velkari warships that had come to conquer humanity, only 7 survived, and those were damaged beyond repair. The rest had been reduced to twisted wreckage by weapons their builders had never imagined possible. Captain Seung-ho Chang of the UN Gwangju had been given the honor of broadcasting humanity's message to the galaxy. His ship's communication array was the most powerful in the fleet, capable of sending signals across hundreds of light years. "This is Captain Seung-ho Chang of the United Earth Navy," he announced on all known alien frequencies. "To any Velkari ships listening, and to any other species that might be considering aggressive action against humanity, we are a peaceful people who want only to explore the stars and learn from our neighbors. But we will defend ourselves against any who come as conquerors." The message continued, backed by sensor recordings of the battle that had just ended. Images of Velkari warships being crushed by invisible forces, of human vessels absorbing planet-killing energy beams without damage, of an entire invasion fleet being destroyed by 12 small ships. "Any Velkari vessel entering human space will be destroyed without warning," Captain Chang concluded. "Any world harboring thoughts of aggression against us will face consequences beyond your comprehension. We offer peace to those who come peacefully. We offer only destruction to those who come as enemies." The transmission spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, carrying with it a new reality. The Velkari Empire, which had dominated dozens of star systems through superior firepower, had been humbled by a species they had considered primitive. On 1,000 worlds, alien civilizations received the message and began reconsidering their assumptions about the balance of power in the galaxy. Some species that had been conquered by the Velkari began dreaming of freedom. Others that had planned their own expansion campaigns suddenly became much more cautious. Intelligence analyst Yuna Kung completed her analysis of the captured alien technology and databases. What she found confirmed humanity's greatest hopes and fears about their place in the universe. "Captain," she reported to Dae-ho Kim, "we've identified 47 star systems under Velkari control. Most of them contain native species that were conquered and enslaved. If we share our defensive technology with them, they could break free and establish their own governments." "And the other alien civilizations?" "Over 200 known species in this part of the galaxy. Some are more advanced than the Velkari. Others are less developed than us. None of them have anything like our quantum crystalline armor or gravitational weapons. We've accidentally become the strongest military force in local space." Captain Dae-ho Kim looked out at the stars and felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had come to the galaxy hoping to find friends and teachers. Instead, they had discovered a cosmos full of predators and prey, with themselves somehow emerging as the apex predator. But with great power came the opportunity to make things better. The human fleet began its journey home, carrying with them plans that would reshape the galaxy. They would share their defensive technologies with enslaved species, establish peaceful trade with friendly civilizations, and serve as protectors for those who could not protect themselves. The age of Velkari dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that freedom was stronger than tyranny, and that creativity was more powerful than rigid doctrine. In the cold darkness between the stars, a new chapter in galactic history was being written by 12 small ships and the species brave enough to defend their independence against impossible odds.